The roar of American industry is fading. For over a century, Ford's factories in cities like Wayne, Michigan, stood as monuments to U.S. manufacturing might. But now, the unthinkable is happening. Ford is pulling out. In a bombshell announcement, the automaker revealed plans to shift production of its Focus and C-Max models, along with a significant portion of its electric vehicle operations, overseas. This decision has ignited a firestorm, pitting corporate survival against national loyalty and exposing the brutal realities of a globalized economy. Ford's move isn't impulsive, it's a desperate pivot after years of mounting pressure. The root cause: a perfect storm of skyrocketing U.S. production costs, fueled by tariffs on critical materials like steel and aluminum. These policies, designed to protect American jobs, backfired for manufacturers. Ford found itself paying premiums for materials its global competitors sourced cheaply abroad. Meanwhile, supply chain chaos, from pandemic delays to trade wars, left factories idle and profits bleeding. But the real wake-up call came from Tesla. While Ford struggled with legacy costs and dealer networks, Elon Musk's vertically integrated empire mastered lean, globalized electric vehicle production. Tesla's ability to manufacture faster, cheaper, and with cutting-edge technology left Ford scrambling. "We're not just competing with a company anymore," admitted one Ford executive. "We're competing with an entire system." The backlash was instantaneous. Former President Donald Trump, whose America First agenda hinged on reviving manufacturing, framed Ford's decision as treason. At a raucous rally, he thundered, "They're spitting on the workers who built them." His playbook was predictable: threats of punitive tariffs, canceled government contracts, and mobilization of his base for boycotts. Yet Ford didn't flinch. Behind closed doors, executives had weighed the numbers. Staying in the U.S. meant stagnation. Electric vehicles require lithium-ion batteries, and a significant portion of the world's lithium is processed in China. Tariffs made domestic battery production unprofitable. While rivals like Tesla sidestepped the issue by sourcing globally, Ford's choice was stark: adapt or perish. The human cost is undeniable. Towns like Wayne, where generations relied on paychecks from the plant, now face economic ruin. Auto unions erupted, accusing the company of sacrificing loyal employees for shareholder profits. But Ford's counterargument is coldly pragmatic: without this move, there may be no Ford, and no jobs, in a decade. "Would you rather lose 2,000 jobs now or 20,000 later?" challenged CEO Jim Farley. The automaker insists it's still investing in U.S.-based research and development and high-tech manufacturing. But the message is clear: the era of mass assembly line jobs is ending. Future factories will be automated, demanding software engineers over wrench turners. Ford's play reveals a seismic shift in corporate power dynamics. Governments once dictated terms to industry giants. Now, companies like Ford, facing existential threats, are rewriting the rules. By offshoring, they're calling the bluff of protectionist policies. Can politicians really force globalization into reverse? The answer will redefine the U.S. economy. Ford's decision to move production overseas was never just about cutting costs. It was the opening salvo in a much larger war for the future of the auto industry. As the dust settled on the initial political firestorm, the real battle lines came into focus. This wasn't merely a conflict between Ford and the U.S. government or even between Detroit and Silicon Valley. It was a fundamental clash over who gets to control the next era of transportation, and whether a legacy automaker could outmaneuver tech disruptors, geopolitical forces, and its own obsolescence. The stakes were existential, and Ford's leadership knew they weren't just fighting for market share. They were fighting for survival in an industry that had already left them behind in key ways. The shadow of Tesla loomed over every strategic discussion in Dearborn. Elon Musk's company had redefined what it meant to build a car, turning vehicles into software platforms that happened to have wheels. Tesla's mastery of vertical integration, from lithium mines to over-the-air updates, made traditional automakers look like relics. While Ford was still negotiating with dealership networks and union contracts, Tesla was perfecting a direct-to-consumer model that eliminated markup and bureaucracy. While Ford engineers tinkered with combustion engines, Tesla's AI teams were training neural networks to make human drivers optional. The gap wasn't just technological, it was cultural. Ford needed to become a tech company overnight, and that meant making choices that would have been unthinkable a decade earlier. Washington's response to Ford's moves revealed a political system struggling to reconcile competing priorities. On one side, Trump and his allies framed the offshoring as a betrayal of American workers, threatening punitive tariffs and canceled government contracts. On the other, the Biden administration quietly acknowledged the inevitability of globalization, offering subsidies for domestic battery plants while turning a blind eye to Ford's overseas assembly lines. The dissonance was palpable. Politicians wanted the jobs and votes that came with traditional manufacturing, but the economics of the EV revolution demanded a break from the past. Caught in the middle were workers in places like Michigan, who faced the brutal reality that their skills might not transfer to the automated, software-driven factories of the future. Ford's real gamble, however, wasn't just about geography. It was about reinventing the very idea of what a car company could be. Behind closed doors, executives greenlit Project T3, a moonshot initiative to build next-generation EVs on fully automated platforms. The goal wasn't incremental improvement, it was total disruption. Factories where robots outnumbered humans 10-1. Batteries that charged in minutes and lasted 1,000,000 miles. A business model that cut out dealerships entirely. The numbers were staggering. $50 billion in investments, partnerships with BMW on solid-state batteries, and a target price point of $25,000 that would undercut Tesla's cheapest offering. But the risks were equally monumental. If Project T3 failed, Ford would burn through its cash reserves and become a cautionary tale. If it succeeded, it might just prove that legacy automakers could beat Silicon Valley at its own game. With Tesla's dominance growing and China flooding the market with cheap EVs, Ford found itself on the edge of a crisis. Executives scrambled to respond. Should they lower their prices, even if it meant operating at a loss? Should they double down on automation and efficiency, even if it risked alienating their already frustrated workforce? Or should they pivot again, focusing on software and AI-driven vehicles to stay competitive? No answer was perfect, and every path carried enormous risk. While the corporate battle raged on, the human impact of Ford's transformation was becoming painfully clear. In places like Michigan and Ohio, once thriving Ford towns were unrecognizable. Auto plants had been replaced by sterile, AI-run factories. Jobs that once supported families for generations had vanished. For many, Ford's transformation felt like a betrayal. It was no longer the company that had built the middle class. It was something else, something colder, more efficient, but less human. Yet, for all the pain, there was also progress. The new Ford was leaner, faster, and, in many ways, more innovative than ever before. The question was no longer whether it could survive the EV revolution. It had already proven that. The real question was whether it could do so without losing its soul. As Ford's story entered its next chapter, one thing was certain: the rules of the auto industry had changed forever. The age of gas-powered dominance was over. The era of software-driven, AI-powered, globally manufactured vehicles had arrived. And whether Ford thrived or fell apart in this new world depended on one thing: its ability to keep up. Would Ford emerge as the last great American automaker? Or would it become just another casualty of the EV revolution? Only time would tell.